When I was a kid, I dreamt of becoming a world-traveling adventurer, just like my heroes in the movies. I'm talking about such greats like Rick O'Connell, James Bond, or Indiana Jones. I wanted more than ever to have a life like theirs, one filled to the brim with excitement, wonder, and heroics. And boy, I tell you, there was nothing that could discourage me from my ambitions. Not even the revelation my heroes were nothing more but fictional characters played by actors. As I saw it, if my idols were entertainers, then I would be one too. I would go off and study acting, get into showbiz, and go on to amaze other kids just like me. Sure, I knew it wouldn't be easy, but I firmly believed there was no challenge I couldn't overcome. No knot I couldn't untangle. That is, until I found myself inexplicably at odds with Pope Benedict XVI. Yes, the former head of the Catholic Church and sovereign of the Vatican City. So how did I get in trouble with the 256th Bishop of Rome? Well, that story begins back in 2010, when I traveled overseas to study in England at St. Mary's University. It was my junior year of college, and I was absolutely buzzing with excitement. There I was, at long last, fulfilling not just one, but two of my dreams, becoming a trained actor and world traveler. I just knew if my heroes could see me, they would have been so proud. Oh yeah, I only cried myself to sleep the first 2 nights. I tell you though, boy, my trip couldn't have happened at a better time. See, back then, I was really struggling in the theater arts program at Marquette University, my home college. 2 years in, and my performance skills were still pretty shoddy. Most of my peers thought I was a joke, and even my college advisor, one of the department's main directors, informed me, rather bluntly, that she wouldn't ever consider me for an audition, with how bad my speech impediment was at the time. Oh yeah, fun fact, I'm what's called a clutterer. Instead of having a hard time getting word out, like stuttering, I struggle with trying to not word vomit everything out at once. Or in other words, I used to sound a lot more like Boomhauer from King of the Hill. So yeah, other than requiring a good amount of speech therapy, I knew that I also desperately needed to hone my acting skills. I figured, what better place to become an actor than in the homeland of such greats like William Shakespeare, Charles Dickens, and the Andrew Lloyd Webber. Okay, wanting to be like the guy who created Cats may not be the best example, but Mr. Webber also composed Phantom of the Opera. So yeah, nobody's perfect. Not even musical geniuses. It shouldn't come as any surprise that my first few weeks in England felt like a whirlwind to my culture-shocked adult mind. After all, I went from a calm Midwest life to one that was suddenly an exciting parade of new sights, sounds, and experiences. I remember laughing to myself over how adventurous the whole thing felt, a feeling which only grew when I learned of the Supreme Pontiff's visit to St. Mary's at the end of my 3rd week. Turns out, back in September 2010, Pope Benedict was making a 4-day visit to the country. Considering St. Mary's University was, and still is, a rather respectable Christian institution, the Vatican thought it would make the perfect place for their sovereign to stop on his 2nd day. A choice St. Mary's was happy to comply with. Seriously, the college went all out for the occasion. They designed and put together commemorative bags, hired a full choir and security force, and, to top it all off, went and built a fully fledged stage in the middle of their world-renowned track and field facilities. Yeah, Olympic trainers from around the world would come to St. Mary's to train and hone their muscles for the Olympics. And the colleges went and put a big old stage smack dab in the middle of it for his big popey hat. Without question, they went above and beyond for their big assembly, which, no lie, was actually what they called the event. While not certainly the most creative of titles, it nonetheless did its job showcasing how excited St. Mary's was to be chosen to host the Vicar of Jesus Christ. I mean, this is all taking place in the same city that has a monument called The Monument. You know something is big in London when they label it like someone teaching a kid how to read. Naturally, the university weren't the only ones excited, resulting in the campus grounds quickly becoming packed with curious students, devout Christians, passionate protesters, and hungry members of the media. The event organizers did what they could to limit the number of people in the audience, but I'd tell you, it did little to make us not feel like a bunch of packed-in sardines. And if that wasn't enough, it was, of course, a typical day in London, meaning we also had to deal with an overcast of light rain and cold wind. One of the groups allowed to be a part of this frigid assembly were, of course, me and the other foreign students, which I can only speculate was mainly due to this whole event taking place literally on our dorm's front lawn. And understandably, it would have been kind of shady to place our home past the security line and not let us in on the fun. To be clear though, we still had to leave the grounds and come back through security. When the servant of servants of God shows up on your doorstep, you better believe they're taking every precaution to ensure that he was protected, going so far as to post snipers across campus to keep an eye out for things. Which, yeah, naturally, they did warn us about to make sure none of us did anything stupid. Bet you can't guess which dumbass didn't get that memo. Anyway, there I was, on the day of the big assembly, trying to find a place to stand in the audience that I could get good photos, when I feel the first raindrops hit my head. I went into an instant panic. I didn't want to get my camera wet. And that's when I got this brilliant idea. I remembered that my dorm had these kitchenettes with big windows overlooking the assembly on the second floor. I reckon they would probably be empty, with everyone mainly sticking to the field, and I also knew they came stocked with everything I needed to make nice, heartwarming tea. Mulling over whether to stay outside in the frigid air or going indoors where it's nice and cozy, it was no brainer. I went inside almost immediately. Before long, I was having a blast getting all these fantastic shots of the crowd, of the helicopters above, and the choir. And then the moment finally came for he, the Holy Father, to make his grand entrance. So he got into the Pope-mobile, gathered his Pope guards, and made his popey way to the stage, and the crowd went wild. Meanwhile, I could easily see him up in my personal skybox, and I was trying to take full advantage of the view. Problem was, because of the light rain, by that point, my glorious view was covered with hundreds of raindrops, pretty much ruining any chance I could get of a clear shot of the Pope on my camera. Thinking fast, I quickly unlocked and opened the window and snuck my camera's long lens as far as I could outside. And just as I was about to go and take my picture, I suddenly hear from down below, "Shut that fucking window!" I looked down to see the security guard staring up at me, waving a bunch of men with guard dogs in the building, while fiercely barking orders into his radio, all the while not once breaking eye contact with me. In a panic, of course, I quickly slammed the window shut and took a step back, frantically trying to figure out what the hell was going on. And as the puzzle pieces slowly came together, that panic quickly turned to dread. I had realized that in all of my brilliance, I had just stuck a long, bare-looking object out of a second-story window and pointed it at one of the most influential people on the planet, like I was some kind of trained assassin. Granted, a woefully awkward and sloppy assassin, but still a threat worth capturing nonetheless. I'll be honest, I first debated running to my room to wait for this whole mess to blow over, and that's when I realized it sunk in what my teachers were trying to tell me. Just so you know, there will be snipers on campus keeping a lookout. Snipers armed with guns, powerful guns, equipped with the latest and greatest scopes. They'll be like hawks in the sky, ready to strike at a moment's notice.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, there was no questioning it. I was trapped. With the guards covering for me above, it was only a matter of time before the dog teams hunted down my silly ass from below. My only option was to wait for the inevitable. Not that I was really eager to do anything else at that moment, because, quite frankly, I was petrified to the spot with fear. Like a deer frozen in the headlights, I agonized over the situation I got myself into. This trip was supposed to be my chance to make something of myself, to become the entertainer I've always dreamt of becoming. Not to get labeled a terrorist within my first month. I was so overcome with dread, worrying about what my parents would even say. I almost didn't hear the sound of footsteps coming up behind me from the hallway. Putting on the bravest of faces I could muster, I slowly turned my head around to greet my fate, to see this lone, bored-looking security officer walk in. The guy takes one look at my poker face and says, "Oh, mate, yeah, good. We didn't know anyone could get into the building. We're just doing a quick sweep." "Okay." "You enjoyed the show, all right?" "Okay." Either by some huge stroke of luck, or more likely that the marksman outside could clearly make out that I wasn't packing a deadly Glock, but rather a simple Canon DSLR, I was fortunately not arrested and deported back home. That said, it didn't change the fact that I was so mortified by the trouble I had caused. I frankly don't remember anything else that happened the rest of the assembly, save for the fact that I sat my ass down and somberly drank my tea like a good little student for the rest of the show. In hindsight, yeah, the situation was probably not as bad as I made it out to be in my head. However, that didn't change the fact that my fear felt very real to me. It was a good thing too, because it was just the near-death experience I needed at the time. See, after getting my face to the possibility of having my adventures cut short, I stormed out of the dorm hall as soon as the event ended, determined to not waste another second of my time in England. And I'm glad for it, because within moments, I bumped into 50 other Americans studying at St. Mary's that fall. A group of people that ended up being, to this day, some of my greatest and oldest friends. Long-lasting friendships was the only thing I got from my little brush off with the Pope's guards. No, I also got an appreciation to enjoy the here and now, which it turns out, that I would learn later on, was the real source of my problems with Marquette. See, I was so blindly determined to follow what I thought was the only way to making my dreams come true, I never stopped to consider that Marquette's theater program may not be the right one for me. They may have other options, other programs that I could pursue. Or better yet, that it was even possible to find a place like St. Mary's, the finest university that could ever welcome a goofball like me. Wherever you are now, Pope Benedict XVI, thank you, and your security detail for not taking me out. Their bottomless patience for a dumbass American with a camera, ironically, made me the man I am today. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching. I know this isn't like my usual content, but hey, wanted to change things up a bit and try telling a story for once. If you haven't already, consider liking and subscribing, or even leaving a comment of one of your favorite travel stories. Either way, if you don't, totally okay. I love you either way. Take care. Bye.